We're
No,
good.
we're on good. We're good, HUD. No,
No,
we're
we're
on.
on.
We're
Camera's on,
good.
Charlene.
We're good. We're on.
So we were trying to tell you, honey.
All right, so let's start this meeting at 6:31. Charlene, do you want to start with a roll call?
Sure. Doug Thompson,
Here.
Katie Knudsen,
Here.
Richard Anthony.
Here.
Did you hear from Ted Carves?
I have not checked my email since lunchtime, so I haven't heard from him as of yet.
Margot Collins,
Here.
David Gerns is excused.
Yep.
Tyler Shorman,
Here.
John Sherman,
Here.
Jay DeRoche is going to be late.
Yes,
Okay. And Liz Costa is excused also, right?
correct.
All right. That's it.
Okay. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
So the next item is the minutes from last meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
I didn't have the date right in front of me. What was the date?
August 20th.
Do I have any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any against? All right, good, thank you. Thank you all. So joining us today is Fire Chief Knudsen. Is that how you pronounce it?
Knudsen, you're close enough.
Knudsen, I know.
Close enough.
Obviously, we've had a lot with your town, with your department and the rescue in particular. We've seen some of the numbers. I haven't seen any numbers since July, obviously being the first year of the new program. Some of the board members just had questions about the revenue that's been derived, how billing is generated, collections. And we just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak on behalf of how you thought the first 8 months or so were going with the new ambulance, and, bring us up to speed, and we'll let some of my my colleagues here inquire. So go ahead, Chris.
So we actually started March the 1st, so we're just really into the first 6 months
Okay.
of the program. Very smooth transition. This was 18 months of planning before we initiated the change. So everything was thought out to a T. Transition from our contracted ambulance provider to us doing it ourselves was super easy. We've made a tremendous impact to the community already. I think if you follow us on Facebook, we try to share some more of the we go on a lot of calls that are significant, but the more of the life-saving calls and the importance of us getting there within a few minutes versus 15, 20 minutes with an ambulance.
Yep.
So it's been going good. We've, knock on wood, not had really any major issues. So I guess answer questions. I could rattle on about a bunch of different things, but I would like to be more posed with specific questions, I guess.
So my question is, through 6 months, do you think you're on budget to where you anticipated the revenue to be? I mean, it's hard to predict when people are going to get sick and how you're going to bill. But as far as your proposed budget, do you think you're in line?
So the last 3 months has been really where the revenue started coming in, and that's what I talked about that last year when we were preparing for this.
Yeah.
Talking to the industry that really knows billing, which is the billing company that we went with, and then talking to other billing companies, they said about 9 months would really 6 to 9 months before you really started seeing close to being right on track with the budget on that. For the last 3 months, it's really come up.
And I just wanted to interject and say we really can't say 6 months because from March to September 1 is only 5 months. So we only have 5 months that we're actually looking at. September is still out there.
No, right, yeah, I'm not looking at year to date. I'm looking, for a 5-month projection. Is it in line with
Okay.
what we would anticipate?
So the revenue's coming in. Ambulance billing is easy and complicated. So let me just go over some terms. Okay, let's start with there, and then maybe that'll help drive some more questions. So when you look at what we do, there's really 5 big terms that we're going to use within our billing or our ambulance service. The first one is the billed amount.
Yep.
How much do we want to bill for our service? There's absolutely no guidance out there in the world of what do you charge for an ambulance, right? It's up to every community to figure out what they want to charge kind of on their own. What you charge versus what you collect, which is the next term, 2 totally different bowls.
Yep.
You could put out millions of dollars worth of bills and you're going to collect what you could collect. And that's it. That's all you're going to be able to get.
Yeah.
So, we do have a billed amount. We developed a billing rate. So we have 4 different flat rates, which is common within the ambulance billing industry, 4 different base flat rate charge lines. All right. So one from a very basic call where you're really not that injured, or which we don't really do this, but taking you to a doctor's office appointment, to we're chemically sedating you and putting a breathing tube down your throat.
Yeah.
All right. So there's 4 different lines that we could bill from that. And they range from $1,600 to $2,200. All right. That for a municipal service, that's really on a pretty high end
Okay.
for that. That's for some municipal services around here, that's probably 3 times more than what other towns are charging.
Yeah.
And then we charge per loaded mile taking you to the hospital. So really, it doesn't matter what hospital you go to, the base charge is going to be the same no matter what. It depends on what we're doing as far as procedures. And the only difference would be mileage.
So
And-
how do we dictate, excuse me, my ignorance, how do we dictate who goes to what hospital?
So there's a bunch of different matrices, if you are, things that go into that. The first thing is the patient should have a choice. Absolutely, the patient should have a choice. And that was one of the drivers for us changing to our own service is our patients, our residents, were not given a choice. They could be having a chronic health issue, right, where they have to go see their doctor all the time. They have years of chronic problems, and their hospital may be Exeter.
Mm-hmm.
And they're told, oh, no, you're not going to Exeter. We're going to take you to Haverhill. So they're not even taking you to a hospital within the same state that you live in. They're going to take you to
First available.
the closest hospital. The next thing that plays into that is the receiving hospital has to be able to take care of your needs.
True.
So that's where our care providers come in. They assess the patient. They determine, okay, you want to go to this hospital could take care of your, not just your immediate needs, but sometimes it also plays in as long-term needs. So if you're going to need rehabilitation services or something, we want to get you to a facility that really could take care of you from the time you enter to the time you're discharged. And that's the best care that we want to be able to provide to the patient. And then obviously the urgency.
Yeah.
That if there is something that you're really sick, something going on, we might have to get you to not the closest facility, but the closest appropriate facility for that. So like if you're a major trauma patient, we might put you on a helicopter. We might take you to Lawrence General, which is our closest trauma center. We might even be taking you to Boston to a level 1 trauma center, depending on what's going on with you. We wouldn't necessarily want to take you to this freestanding ER if you're hurt really bad. So there's a lot of little things that come into play. Our care providers make decisions along with the patient. And we really try to accommodate our residents and get them to the facility that they really want to be at.
Right. And how are you billing so far? How much is collectible? Do you think it's all collectible? Or
No. Well, no, there's
the allowances or?
so let me go through some of these terms. So you got the billed amount. That's what we bill, right? Then you have collected, which is at the end of the day, at the end of the month, at the end of the year. This is what you're actually going to be able to collect. A big term within the difference between billed and collected is a term called adjusted. All right. So the Center for Medicare Services develops a payer line, and that's all you're going to get. You could charge whatever you want. You could bill whatever you want. So we could bill a Medicare patient $2,300. And Medicare is going to say, you know what, we're going to pay you $342, and the rest is going to automatically be adjusted, and you can't do nothing about it. So that's the adjusted column. Then what's left over, what we've not collected, but maybe we could collect, falls under delinquent. And then at some point it goes into purged. So we're just now getting enough data. So I think some communication that, I hate to use a harsh term, that was wrong. Richard made a statement at your last meeting that we took over a business. We should know what that business is. Essentially, it was kind of like a hostile takeover. We fired our contractor. They're not going to share their information with us. So no, we don't know what the business was when we took it over. What we were able to get was a payer matrix from them. So they provided us 18 months worth of this many patients were transported on Medicare, this many patients were transported on Medicaid, this many patients was transported with commercial insurance. We sent that to 2 different billing companies, and they projected what our income or our collections would probably be in a year. So that's where that 400,000 came from.
Okay.
So we did have some knowledge, but no, it wasn't like, oh, I've owned this McDonald's for 5 years. I know what it makes every year. I'm going to sell it to this person now, and here's what the revenue is. We're just now starting to really see live revenue with the 6-7 months of time. And that's probably going to take at least a full year just because stuff runs so far behind. You transport a patient, it goes to our billing company, they process the bill, it goes to the insurance company, they process it. You're probably not going to get a check we could transport someone today, we probably won't see a payment for that for 60 days.
60 days.
So what do you feel your average, so let's just use the standard terms in business, 30, 60, 90, and 120 days out. From what you've seen so far in 5 months, what would you say your average is right now, 90 days out?
For collections,
Collections, yes.
they don't really break it down to that level.
Okay,
Right, it's just, because every insurance company, it's so different. Some pay pretty quick, Medicare, Medicaid, some commercial insurance companies, they batch things together over time, send a check. Sometimes it's patients that are paying because they don't have insurance or they're self-pay, so they might be 3 months out before they pay a bill, or pay a little bit each month for so long.
so would it be safe to say between 60 and 90 days out would be a safe number?
I would probably err on the side of at least 90 days out before you would see.
So 90 to 120?
Yeah, well, I guess when I started off, before we really have strong data, what the billing company said was look at the first 9 months. Okay, so when you look at the first 9 months, then you can start putting some averages together of what your average collections are going to be. So we're just now kind of getting close to that window. So the next thing that we're working on with our billing company is looking at what do we want to do for collections. So you have a bill, we have a billing company, they send the bill to the patient. After 90 days, it will go into a column called delinquent, meaning that we've not collected any money at all on that, or what was left. So now we're starting to look at what do we want to do as a town for collections. If you live here in this town, and your insurance only paid part of the bill, do we want to do balance billing with you and force you to pay the rest of it? Does the town want to put a lien up against your property? Most municipalities don't do that.
Yeah.
That's what the tax subsidy pays for, is that difference to a high level anyway. You might collect a lower amount, but the expectation that you don't have insurance and we're going to force you to pay a $2,300 ambulance bill is not really realistic in most municipal services.
So if I fell into that category where something happened and someone was transported from my home and they didn't have insurance and I owe me or that person owes the town, let's say $2,300, would you entertain a payment plan with me of?
So that's what the collection agency would
That's up
do.
to
So
the
we
collection
won't
agency. Okay.
be putting manpower towards that. The collection agency will pick that up and they get a small percentage for doing the work. And we'll set up parameters. The parameters have to be the same for everybody. So I know there's some people that they think that, oh, well, let's do this. If they're a taxpayer, let's not make them pay. If they're not from this town we'll make them pay. That's against the law. We can't do that. We have to be the same for whatever the parameters are, have to be applied to
Operating
everybody.
standard procedure
Right.
across the board.
So I have a quick question. You said that anything over 90 days would be considered delinquent?
With our billing company.
Okay. But, so and I'm just looking at like the July receivable report. All right, so, I mean, is the July receivable report, are those accurate? I mean, if we're looking at the financials from the billing company. So the receivable reports that break it out, I think you got current 30, 60, 90, 120, goes up to 150, and then over 180. I mean, are those reports accurate?
That would be accurate, yeah.
He's referring to an email that Greg sent to the.
Yeah, I'm not, without knowing exactly what numbers you're looking at. I mean, the reports themselves are accurate, yes.
Not an email, these are
Yeah.
the financial reports.
So there's an attachment Greg sent to me that I forwarded to the board.
Right.
Yeah, obviously the reports are accurate.
All right, so, I mean, like, for instance, I mean, like, anything over receivable, this is July. So like 90 to, 61 to 90, I think the total is 39,000. I guess I'd be more concerned about anything that's like 90 to 180. You have 27,000 for 90 days out, 25,000 for 121. It kind of drops off of 4,500 for 150 to 80. And then there's like 12,000 or 13,000 for over 180. So, and those don't look like they're private insurance. So, I mean, it looks like those are insurance items. Do they go over the receivables with you? I mean, in terms of, explaining anything that's out 90 days?
Does the billing company go over receivables with me?
Yeah, I mean, if something's delinquent after 90 days, it looks like there's a large amount of revenue that's sort of not being realized right now.
And that's because of insurance companies and how they pay.
All right.
Yes.
But they considered delinquent, or is that?
That would be considered a delinquent amount, yes. So if we for simple math, we send you a bill for $2,000.
Yeah.
And your insurance company pays $500 of that. $1,500 is going to show up in delinquent after 90 days, unless you pay it.
But in that example, it would show up under the taxpayer or the patient, not the insurance company.
Correct, because
So you get a detailed accounts receivable aging that says Doug Thompson owes you $1,500.
Yeah.
And it's up to the manager of the billing.
It's up to
company.
us to figure out what do we want to charge. Most of these are our residents. What do you want to charge for the difference?
So it falls into the parameters you said earlier. Okay.
Yeah. So we might already collected $500 from that patient, from their insurance company. It's the part that they're showing is the remaining balance. So, and another misunderstanding is with health insurance, people think that this works like if you have a procedure done and say your insurance pays 80% of that procedure. That is absolutely not correct with ambulance billing. Each insurance company has a fee schedule, and that is personal to your type of insurance and what you're paying for that insurance. That's all the insurance company is going to pay. So we could send a bill for $5,000 in their fee schedule. They say an ambulance for you, we're going to pay $485 of that. That's all they're going to pay. The rest goes back to the patient. So we could opt to, and this is where the insurance industry is really frustrating, a health insurance industry, is they want you to be in network. I'm sure you've heard that term before, right? An in-network provider. You know what that means? They're going to pay us our scheduled fee and we can't collect anymore. So we could send a $2,000 bill, their fee is going to be $500 on their fee schedule, and we can't bill the patient any different. So it doesn't make sense for us to be an in-network provider as a 911 service, because if we want to have the option to collect the balance of that, we lose that option when we become an in-network provider for insurance companies. When you get your explanation of benefits from your insurance provider after an ambulance ride, they're going to tell you in the explanation of benefits in big bold letters, you chose to use an out-of-network provider. Next time we suggest you use an in-network provider. So when you call 911, I guess you're just going to ask the dispatcher, hey, what ambulance is around here that is an in-network provider? That's how the insurance company gets away with not paying stuff. So when you see those numbers, Richard, on that, the differences, we may be collected something already from the insurance company, but that's the difference between what we collected and what the billed amount was. We have a high bill amount to try to maximize as much as we can from the insurance. Well, we're not leaving any money on the table as far as insurance companies. We're not even really close to the max amount of the insurance companies are going to bill. So we're collecting 100% of what insurance companies are offering to pay. So that the number that you're looking at is that different number. The other thing you'd want to look at, and that which is important to understand, is the adjusted rate. So the adjusted rate, 60%-ish, 60 to 70% of our transports are Medicaid, Medicare patients. And we can't really do anything about the adjusted rate. So you're going to see the adjustments on that, and that's going to show as well.
Where do we have visibility then? I mean, I understand the Medicare and Medicaid adjustments. Those are statutory. So, that's going to be written off and hopefully tracked, But the other ones that, again, the receivables that are showing from current to over 180 days, is there a report that we can be pointed to that'll?
It's in the report that you got.
Right, that shows
the amount that was collected.
Well, I think you're asking per insurance provider, per resident, per.
No, you see the receivables.
Yep.
And so presumably anything over 90 days, you've billed somebody for. Okay, but if you're carrying the receivable as the portion that wasn't paid by the insurance company, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Yes, that would be the difference. And it's very variant. I mean, the variance is. We have some insurance companies that pay $400, $500, $600. We got a few that pay maybe $700. We got some that pay $125.
So we don't have a policy in place yet to how to deal with those, the difference then?
So that we're just now getting into the time period to start looking at that. So the first part you want to do is look at what you could collect from the insurance companies before you decide you want to go after your residents for the difference. So we're just now really at the early stages of getting some financial data. If you look at those reports, you'll notice the first few months there's hardly any collections, right? And now you shoot up to June and you're in the upper 20,000s, July mid 35,000s, August upper 27,000 collections. That's showing you the rise now of what we're going to be able to get from the insurance company.
So
What's the percentage that the collection company is getting?
So we don't have a collection company. So our billing company gets 4%.
Okay, that's good.
So what have you billed year to date?
I don't have the exact amount that we've billed year to date.
I think, Richard, I think it was like 300.
Well, it's like I said,
I
the receivable report's not going to be able to tell you that because whatever's left on there is going to represent the difference.
I
of
don't
It
what-
looks like the adjusted rate for year to date was 81,000.
I think was that collected though? Or billed?
No, that's adjusted. That's what Medicare took away. That's what's like you can't bill that.
Yeah.
So the adjusted amount is what the Medicare is telling you can't bill. This is what we're going to pay you. This is all you can collect.
But overall, between that and the other supplemental insurance and individual, do you know what the year-to-date billing is?
I don't have a single report because they do the monthly reports to us.
Well, I haven't seen.
And then at the bottom of it, they'll hang out.
I haven't seen August reports. That's why I'm asking.
Yes, I don't have the
I was
August.
just curious if you think we're on budget to where we expect it to be.
So when you look at the 400,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was the projected revenue that I talked about a 70% return on the investment.
Yeah.
That's real quick math in my head. Is that 33,000 a month? What's 70,000 divided by 12?
70,000 divided by 12. It's about 6,500 per month.
400. I'm sorry, 400,000 divided by 12. 33,000 a month.
About 33,000.
Yeah. So when you look at we're now starting to get to where we're collecting like we should be after getting our feet underneath us.
Yeah, your numbers
We're
are
at
crossing
26,000, 35,000, 27,000. So we're right there at knocking on that door of the projected budgeted amount.
30. Do you think your expenses are in line with what you predicted?
Yeah, our budget's if within the budget that
At
was,
this point, yeah.
yeah, our budget's within the budget was proposed.
That's fine. Okay.
So this might sound like an odd question, Chief. When we had the previous contract with the previous company, and that was negotiated, whatever that number was that paid monthly, quarterly, annually, all up front?
What did the town pay?
Yeah, like, for instance, did the town pay, let's say,
The town didn't pay anything, and so that was the second, well, I shouldn't say the second, but another thing why we wanted change is it used to be free, and then they were gonna start charging the town a lot of money, on top of billing patients a lot of money.
and if I'm not mistaken, and maybe I didn't present myself appropriately, one of the reasons that this became what you have done became an issue or a subject of discussion was because they were going to, here's the contract, we're going to do the billing, and now we're going to charge you additional money on top of that. That's
Correct.
the way I understand
It
that
was,
the
yes.
potential new contract would have gone had the town gone with it.
Correct.
Do you know what that might have cost the
So
town per month?
the first,
roughly?
yeah, and all that's on our webpage, if you wanna go, I put it underneath the ambulance presentation, I don't know, a year or so ago, probably. Our first year in, we were gonna pay the contractor $100,000 a year. They'll be told 80 times in a year that they weren't available to respond in ambulance.
So basically, we're still ahead of the game.
So if we would have stayed status quo, you would have been looking at $100,000 that the town would be paying a contractor to be told 80 times a year that there's not an ambulance available for your town that you're paying for. Okay. If we wanted to do what we are doing now to have a dependable paramedic and ambulance to respond to your emergency, we could not collect a penny, and we would still be cheaper than having a contractor do it. So
Even though the money might not be coming in as fast as some of us might like it to, we're still ahead of the game.
absolutely. Like I said, we could not collect a penny from anybody, and it would still be way cheaper than having, our budget went up $560-ish thousand. A contractor wanted, I think, $1.3 million to do what we're doing for $560,000.
Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure you didn't say no to any taxpayer that called 911, right?
No, we don't say no. Yeah.
So.
And not to rehash some of the changes, but that contracted ambulance provider charged twice as much of what we're charging. The insurance companies still paid the same amount, right? So you got a $5,000-6,000 bill. Your insurance company maybe only paid $400 or $500 of it. They absolutely would go after our residents. I had emails and phone calls from people trying to get help because they were being taken to court to pay the difference. So there's so much more to this than the slight increase we had in our budget.
I agree. I know people personally that haven't called 911 because they're afraid of the ambulance bill, not because of their need. So it's fortunate to have you.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I did that once. I'm allergic to blueberries. I had cross-contamination with blueberries, and 4 years ago, I drove myself to Exeter, and Dr. Joseph said to me, "You're a fool. You're lucky you're alive."
I know it happens.
So also on that website under the ambulance service
Yeah.
presentation, there's a document under, that talks about basic reimbursement for stakeholders in ambulance billing. It would be really good if anybody's interested. It really talks about how the insurance industry works. And you can't just bill whatever you want and expect that you're going to get that. It's like I said, we've maximized insurance benefits, if you will, for our ambulance collections, and we're not going to be able to charge any more and get more from them.
Not to jump ahead, but where do you see your 2024, 2025 budget? Or is it too early to ask?
Well, in all fairness, it's been presented to the town manager. He's working on it. There's payroll increases for cost of living and a couple of little things, nothing major in it at all.
Any projected revenue for the current year? Would you say the same?
I'm going to stick with that number until we start getting above it, just because I'm not a billing company and I can't analyze the billing matrix like they did. So the only thing I have to go on is what they've told me what a projected revenue would be. you know, our call volume is a little bit higher than projected, so maybe that'll help. You know, so from March 1st until today,
Yep.
I just looked to see, we've transported 369 patients.
And do you know what increase from March 1 through September 1? Do you know how much of an increase that was from last year by any chance?
We're actually a little down with call volume this year than we were over last year. We had a pretty slow, very slow August, which was unusual for us.
Which is
Well,
good.
that's a good
So
thing.
it's a good thing, but when you're asking for revenue, it's a bad thing in a way too, right? So August, I think we only ran 100 calls, and it should be like around 130,
Fine with that.
you know? So we were really slow. Now this month seems like we're a little bit busier. So, you know, there's some things we could project, but obviously you can't, you know, if we could project when we were going to call 911, it would be a pretty cool thing to be able to do. So we stay pretty static. We don't have huge fluctuations, you know, so the revenue should be pretty close to where we're at right now. And again, all that also plays on, is it Medicaid patients or is it private insurance? Because Medicare, I mean, they're probably paying about $350 on average.
Right.
And we can't collect from the patient any different. So like I said, that's the part they're gonna give us a check, and they're gonna give us a nice little thing that says adjusted, and we can't collect anymore.
But we knew going into this, there was going to be a certain amount of write-off. I mean,
Yeah,
that was
right. That's
discussed
what,
openly.
you know, when I projected, I shouldn't say, you know, with the team and the billing companies, you know, I projected about a 70% return on investment.
So if you're just, you know, on that point, like there's a category like Medicare Part B or whatever, you know, so all those receivables that are on it that are greater than 90 days, like probably the narrative is going to be that that's the portion that you're going to be writing off.
That's a portion that's adjusted. We don't even get the option to write it off.
That's
They
fine.
wrote it off for us.
Yeah, exactly. But if
Yeah.
it's on there, then that's
Yeah.
a result of a statutory adjustment. So
Right.
like off of the July report, the total would be something like $46,000. That's, you know, should be represented as, you know, statutory adjustment.
That's the term adjustments within the billing company. That's what that means.
Right. And like I said, I'm just looking at the receivable that's out there, is that you have 366,000, so that, you know, roughly 300,000 is probably, you know, just, you have to determine what you're going to do with that.
We have to determine, and some of that might not even made it through billing yet.
Okay.
Because sometimes we get something in from the insurance company that says, you didn't check this box, so you got to check this box and resubmit the claim.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's where the receivable is going to have a narrative associated with it. That,
So-
you know, it's, you know, if it's on there after 90 days, it could be, you know, because needs to be resubmitted
Yeah.
or something like that. But the rate that you charge the insurance company, is it the same that you charge for somebody that's uninsured?
Correct.
All right. So the portion that's being, you know, potentially written off, if it's insurance, you know, that you're carrying, and you have to decide what you're going to do with it. What sort of logic is applied to the uninsured portion? So
So we're not allowed to differentiate if you
Okay.
have insurance or not. Now, we could develop policy on what we want to reduce your bill to.
okay.
And most hospitals have that policy. Like, so if you go to a hospital, go to emergency room, you don't have insurance, you meet with a hospitalist, or you meet with someone within the organization, and they'll work with you on the bill. So that would be the next step that we're going to start looking at with the collection agency on what do we want that to look at. Again, you kind of want something that's blanketed amongst everybody. It's not fair because, oh, well, you could afford to pay your $2,000 bill. This person doesn't have insurance, so now you're going to pay their part too. That's not really a fair approach to paying for this type of service.
So
And on top of that, you got to pay property taxes. So you try to come up with something that's fair for everything. Because even if you don't use us, what are we worth to you because we're available, right? As a property owner, you have a paramedic that's going to be by your side probably within 4 minutes. What's that worth to you, right? What responsibility now goes to the people in the town because they have that available to them? What should they be paying towards it? I don't know if that makes sense the way I said that, but it's,
No, I
there's
understand
some
what you're saying.
value with that as well. It shouldn't just be, if you could collect 100%
You don't
through,
get billed. you
that
don't
would
get
be
billed for the
awesome,
police
right?
to show up if someone
Yeah.
breaks into your house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't want to pay, you have someone burglarize your house. Now you're going to get a bill from the police department for
Yeah.
$1,500 because they showed up. Yeah. So kind of like on that same premise. Yeah.
So when is that policy going to be, when are we looking at potentially having those
So
discussions?
I'm working with our billing company on that. We're just really now getting to the point with revenues that we're seeing a good picture, if you will. How long will it take before we develop that policy? I could give you an answer because that'll be conversations with us in the billing company and then conversations with the stakeholders of the town that make the decisions on where they want to move forward with that or not.
Would you be premature to even think of a specific number prior to a full year of data?
I would like at least 9 months. And that's the advice I get from the billing company is we really need a good solid 9 months of collections.
But do you feel that might be premature? An extra 3 months can make a big difference.
It absolutely could. So everything that we start developing is going to take time to develop anyway. So you start conversations, you start looking at historical data, and then you start building out where you want to get to next, right? So
But
that
when
all
you say
takes time.
historical data, we as a town really don't have that data. So you're looking at historical data with a billing company that handles cities, small municipalities, large municipalities. This is Plasto. We need, what shoe fits us? Before you go into like solid decisions. I think the extra 3 months is critical, to be
And
fair to everybody.
not necessarily opposed to that, but I just try to stay ahead of the game a little bit.
Absolutely.
And, you start getting to a point where you can start seeing, some solid numbers, and you can start playing what's the next piece you want to best benefit everybody. So at the end of the day, and I think you all, if you've been following this from day one, it's not just about the budget, it's about providing a better service for everybody, and by doing that responsibly with the money that you have available to provide that service.
And do you have an idea off the top of your head of resident transports versus non-resident transports roughly?
No. Total call volume, we typically hang around 65% as a residential address. So that would probably be pretty close to the ambulance as
I
well.
would assume, yeah, logically.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, John.
Let's pretend that I fell in my front yard.
Let's not predict that. Let's do something different.
Well, whatever. My point is going to be the first responders have been terrific. I was treated wonderfully, very pleased with the service. But is there something that they should be doing or not doing to help whoever it is, whoever got hurt, whether it's me or somebody else, that we want that first provider to help, if you will, the patient go one way or another, or whether it's facility, Lawrence General, or any other? Do we want them to be directed?
Yes, they should be. It's within their scope to assess the patient and help figure out where the best place is for the patient to go.
And who does that?
Typically the paramedic. Yeah.
And then they know they have that responsibility.
Yes. That's standard patient care.
Yeah.
To, look, and Are you talking about like if you want to go or to the hospital or not, or what the best hospital is to go to?
Yeah. Well, like in my case, which I really did have a fall, my wife had a different opinion on where we should go. And so anyway.
So that's not too uncommon.
Yeah, I
Okay. And we try to, at the end, try to do what really the patient or the family wants to do. But it is within our scope, and it is our responsibility to make sure we get you to the facility, not just the emergency room,
Right.
but the whole picture. So like, to use the example, like maybe if you're going to need rehabilitation services and this facility doesn't have that, it would be better to get you to a facility that does. Because once you're in the door, you belong to them.
Yeah.
If we take you to an emergency room that doesn't have those ancillary services that you might need later on, they have to transfer you from hospital A to hospital B. Hospital B has to accept you as a patient. And they might say, yeah, we're full. Yeah, you're not coming. But if we take you to their emergency room, they don't have a choice. So that's part of the decision-making process that our paramedics do, is not just thinking acutely what's going on with the patient, but long-term down the road, what would be where's the best place? Because the last thing we want our patients to be in short of our freestanding emergency room. So our freestanding emergency room, because they don't have all the facilities, they cannot keep a patient more than 24 hours. Okay. You go to any other hospital around here that's not a freestanding emergency room, you might be stuck in the emergency room for days. And we don't want that for our patients. So if we know that, hey, this patient needs to be over here or over there, we're going to suggest that you go to this hospital because it's going to be better for you in the long term, because we know the hospital systems, our paramedics know the hospital systems. They know what you need. Maybe after you get through the emergency room, what's the next thing you're going to need? And they're going to suggest that you go to that facility just to make a better experience for you in the long run. So, and it's not uncommon to have the differencing of opinion, because everybody has their favorites, everybody has ideas, everybody, but it is part of our responsibility to have that conversation.
Yeah. It's a little different when your daughter is a registered nurse too. That adds one more option.
So I have an interesting question that pertains to somebody that lives in my immediate neighborhood. So let's say you have an individual that's not an official or a licensed home care health provider, but has basically become a full-time healthcare provider to an individual. Let's say that individual fell in the shower, and the person who's taking care of him is unable, for whatever reason, to pick him up, and they need to call Plasto Fire and say, so-and-so's fell in the shower, can you help me pick him up? So you show up to that person's house, it's a call, it's a medical call. He doesn't need to go to the hospital. You get him on his feet and dried off or whatever. It's not a transport, but do you charge for something like that?
We could charge the patient if the town wanted us to do that, but we would not be able to charge their insurance company.
Just food for thought as I'm learning about
There's some very, very narrow window that insurance companies allow us to charge through the Center for Medicare Services guidelines that we could charge for non-transport.
Thank you.
So,
Any other questions regarding to the budget?
Just one last question. I seem to remember there was a presentation that might have been done in front of the Board of Selectmen where we had some actuals, we treated in essence the ambulance services, starting out costs, actual revenue and things like that. I mean, is there a report that we can see in terms of, actual revenue? I mean, I know that these reports show, the receivables, but, is there an actual, revenue actuals that we can look at?
it's in that report.
Okay.
Well, also you submitted the proposed budget to Greg, so I'm sure we'll see those numbers in a few weeks.
So you're talking about what we've collected in a month?
Yeah. No,
Yeah, that's in that report. I'm not sure what page it's on, but it'll tell you.
Difficult to read through that and find the actual numbers.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, let me see if I can help you understand it a little bit. I might be able to have
we
one.
have the aging summary, It's call detail. And then you have payments by call, but I don't know if that's actual, those are actual revenues.
Those are not actual revenues. Give me 2 seconds here. I think I could pull one up here.
So it should be receivables plus cash collected, I would assume.
There's a breakout, there's a charge summary by call. That's not. Like page 20 looks like,
What month are you looking at?
I'm looking at July.
Okay,
Page
you can
20
bring that
looks
one.
like Town of Plastow.
Yeah.
And then it breaks it out.
So if you, I could just go through so you could understand maybe how that report is. So if you, looking at page 8, those are individual transports. So obviously we cannot share the address, the patient's name and such. That's all against HIPAA, but you could see, the run number to the left, the date, which was a call for service date. So you could see like in this report, the very first one was a payment from April. So we were just now receiving a payment from April in this month's report. Right. So that's how you can see that's how far behind that reads. And then obviously it shows the $1,800 is our base rate, and then the 45 is the mileage fee that we charge. So the like 11.5 miles times 45 equals $517.50. That's the mileage fee for that particular call. So that call totaled $2,317.50. So that's what the charge detail report tells you. And there's pages and pages of that, because that month we transported 73 patients. And then if you wanted to look at the adjustments page, that's going to be under the credit summary. That's what the Medicare is adjusting. Aging, call detail. All right, if you go to page, why is it not giving me a page number? It says Town of Plastow payments by call type, and it's in color. And it's got emergency call via 911. It's like an Excel,
Okay.
and it totals $35,768.
Yep.
I don't know why it's not giving me a page number on my thing. Sorry.
I think it's like page 14 or something of the document.
Yeah, so you're going to see payment by credit card, $2,915. Payment by insurance primary, $6,040. Payment by insurance secondary, $2,092. Medicaid, $3,107. Medicare, $16,721. Medicare Part C, $1,000. Did you find that?
That's for the month of July.
That's what that was collected in July.
Right. So those are actual.
Those are actuals, yeah. So those reports, like you said, they're accurate and they're giving you the actual collections for the month. So if you look at this particular month, we were almost $3,000 over budget, or not over budget, but over projected revenue.
You're approaching 35, 36,000. You need 33 to make budget.
Yeah. So the ones that are a little bit under,
And do you know, does Greg have the current numbers through August? Do you guys have the numbers through August at this point?
he should probably have them by now. I think it's the 17th.
So I'll reach out and get those, Richard.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them yet.
No, that's that one right there, the payments by call. I think that's a valuable, part of the narrative right there.
And I'm going to assume at the end of the year, in December, he'll give us the billing company will give us a annual.
And I'm sure we'll have it when we actually review the full budget as proposed in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But so the major, to look down the road is what to do about the non-Medicare adjusted portions.
Correct.
And,
Right.
And that's to be determined.
That's to be determined, because we just don't have, to be fair, what do you want to force people to pay? We just don't have enough of that.
Right.
I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan of making them pay the full amount right now. We have a high amount so we can maximize insurance collections.
Right.
And like I said, that's why those rates were set the way they were.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, you just want to collect enough money to offset your expenses. You're not really a profit center for the town. You know, as much as we want to make profit, you don't want to do it by 911 calls.
Right. And we don't want people to be fearful of calling for an ambulance or being transported because they can't afford to pay. You know, we've had conversations with patients, sick patients, that they don't want to go to the hospital because they don't want to pay for the bill. And then it's like, your health is more important. Let's get you to the hospital. We'll figure that part out later. You know.
Any other questions for the chief at this time? So we'll speak to the chief again when the budget's actually proposed by the town, by the Board of Selectmen. I think we all agree when the chief, the police chief and other agencies speak in front of the budget committee, the Board of Selectmen, we want to participate again like we did last year. So if any other questions come up, we can obviously reach out to him. He's always been generous with his time.
Just one last, just maybe, I know these reports are monthly and, maybe at the end there'll be like a roll-up of some kind.
Yeah.
But my question is can we order a customized report that would show
I can ask.
like a year to date, so if it
Yeah,
was like for March, so that you would see a roll-up, let's say, the revenue roll-up.
I would assume they could easily do that. It's all computer generated.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, they have all the individual reports. There's no reason they can't do that. It's a matter of, are they setting it in the right format?
Yeah,
Could
so
just
I
be a
mean,
question.
if
Could
there's
just
a
be a
year-to-date one, or whatever year to whatever month end, like, March to August.
It's not complicated to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
It shouldn't be complicated to do. If nobody else has any questions, thank you very much, Chief, for your time. Appreciate it.
I do have just a follow-up question with that. Just curious to help me be prepared, how does that relate to our budget?
Well, instead of looking at 1 month, he wanted to look at, from the first day through today and see, have we collected 200? I mean, I'm not going to speak for you.
But say we collect 200,000, I mean, is there a tie-in, like, are you looking for something on, like, you're gonna reduce our budget by?
No,
If we don't,
not at all. I mean, ideally, what I would want to see visually is to see that, the ambulance service with all its component parts broken out, and then showing the expenses associated with it, for personnel, et cetera, and then also, the revenue being plussed in on the income side. Right. I mean, from a budgeting perspective, I think that's the only complete way to see the asset and income side of things. So,
Well, plus look at actual budget versus the actual number.
Yeah.
What was
I
proposed.
mean,
So I think just mathematically, is it working out to what we anticipated? I think that's my point of view at least.
yeah, I mean, we see that right now you haven't done any write-offs apart from Medicare and, Medicaid. And at some point, you're going to be making a decision to do write-offs of some kind based
the
on what
purge
you're
is
going to
what,
collect.
the
not collect.
yeah.
Right. But, those are items that, would be important from an analysis perspective.
There's almost like there's an extra component that counts but doesn't count. It's kind of like an invisible thing out there, and it's what if you had re-signed a contract with the company, and what would it have cost you monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, versus what you're spending and what you're bringing in. It's like almost this ghost hanging over our shoulders saying where we were, where we are, and where we're going.
Right. Well, that's part of the decision making a year ago at this point. That's behind us. So, I mean, now it's just making this operation the most efficient.
But we're
entity.
still, we're climbing a hill, we're climbing a set of stairs, we're ahead, but we got a log on our back that we're carrying up those stairs. I think in the background, yes, decisions were made. We here voted on them. Yes, the town voted on them. It went through. There's still a cost savings that we're not carrying this. It's kind of like getting rid of your mortgage, but still don't pay your taxes scenario. If you're following what I'm saying.
Yeah. You don't know if we're in a better position compared to where we were, but
Right.
we won't know that right now. We're just focused on,
Well, I could tell you March of 2025, that contractor will not be servicing any towns around here. So we would be looking at doing something then. So,
I just try to look at the whole picture. And
so that's, if you go back to that, all that was painted. If you go back, it's all on the town's website under our column on ambulance presentation stuff. That's where it was like 1.1 or $1.3 million to have a contractor come in and do it. or we get paid a pretty large sum of money for them not to be available for us. It was kind of nice that they charged us the most, and were going to tell us the most that they couldn't come. So that's already kind of been determined, if you will.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
All right, well, thanks for your time, Chris, appreciate it. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
So the next on the agenda is new business, old business. Any other conversations at this point? I think right now we're just trying to fine tune. I'm sorry.
You were
Sharon.
going to try what? I would like us to deal with some of this still,
Okay,
if we can.
no, that's fine. So that's old business.
It is old business, so if you got something else.
And I thought I'm sorry, I thought that was part of the minutes, so I thought voting on the minutes was concurring that this was still correct. She's referring to the procedures, Rich. I'm not sure if you read those. Are you comfortable with the way it's rewritten? I'm not sure.
I
if
think so,
everything-
yeah. I mean, as long as we were having the scenario where you have somebody that's a vacancy
Yep.
happens.
Yep.
You have a noticing component to it.
Yep.
But, apart from a vacancy, you might have a vacancy.
Yep.
That might not be an occurrence. And so that's what the second part of that was supposed to address, that if someone were to come in and say that, hey, I noticed that there's a vacancy that you're carrying, I'd like to apply for it, you wouldn't then now start noticing it and saying that we need to wait 21 days. It would be, you would entertain that application.
Oh, yeah. So the way I read it, the way I planned on reading, following through, is if there's a vacancy, we have no applicants initially. And then a month later, a week later, we now have a letter of interest.
Right.
And then I would like to entertain at the next meeting that everybody's
Exactly.
available.
Yeah.
So once actually at this time going forward, we'll probably have a meeting almost every week for the rest of the year or close to it. Once we get past the first budget meeting, with an actual budget in front of us. So my proposal would, my idea to see that implemented would be if we have a meeting on October 1st and there's a vacancy, it's been 21 days, we followed everything as it's written, October 8th, October 15th, the next scheduled meeting, entertain that person and put it to a vote like we do with every other vacancy we've done so far.
Putting together a draft schedule might not be a bad idea.
For the budget?
Yeah.
Well, I think nobody's here from nobody's here from the Board of Selectmen of the town. I think it was the first Monday or the second Monday was when the Board of Selectmen were going to meet on the first proposed budget. So it would, once I hear from Jay or the Board of Selectmen in general, just schedule something accordingly. But I'm thinking the first or second Tuesday in October is what I anticipate.
What we've done in the past is laid out every week, from October to.
Oh, yeah. Once the Board of Selectmen can guide me, or Greg can guide me on the proposed budget and where it stands, and we can do that. Unfortunately, I got nobody here to talk to about that schedule, so.
You have no one to talk.
Well, nobody from the Board of Selectmen's here, nobody from the town is here. So we can set up a proposed schedule, but nobody's here to concur that that's going to be able to be attained.
Yeah, understand.
So, but I'll reach out to Jay as soon as I can. Any other business at this time? Are you
Yeah,
okay
so
with-
so
Jay,
maybe,
Go ahead.
maybe I'm really stupid, and it's possible on this, but I don't understand
Oh, I'm sorry.
what this means. It says that the Budget Committee will entertain solicitations for applications. What does that mean? I mean, I'm the person that is going to be putting this stuff up,
Okay.
so I need to understand what that means.
Where are you reading it at?
It's
first
the
one.
red, the red.
What does entertain solicitations mean?
Why don't you just say, instead of that, why don't you just say entertain applications for 21 days?
And take out the solicitations.
Just take out the word solicitation. Is that-
Solicitations is what sort of bothers
Just
me,
let,
but
just
Yeah.
let the new
it
language
should be
read.
yeah, you're
After a
right.
vacancy is posted for 5 business days, the Budget Committee will entertain applications for 21 days. Just take out solicitations and just leave applications for 21 days.
is that all right? Does that make, I mean, to me, it makes more sense. I wasn't sure what that
Yeah,
meant.
no, I don't- yeah, I don't
We're
like
gonna
to-
be
yeah.
actively out there soliciting people?
No, that's right. I don't like the word soliciting in this position, in this paragraph, so it comes across as you're implying you're soliciting to fill a vacancy where we're not
So
soliciting.
if we remove that, does that satisfy, or is that okay, or am I just not getting it?
I'm fine with that.
No, I'm fine with it.
Thank you. Well done, Jay.
Sorry, Mike.
Not quite, but welcome, Jay.
Yeah, so the only question, Jay,
So let's
is
read off the list of things that we've assigned to Jay.
everything, Jay, you're in charge of
That
everything.
we already voted on?
So the only question was, is the Board of Selectmen on, still trending to meet first week in October and have a budget for us to review? Or second week in October?
Yes, so talked to the town manager, and he's looking at having it to the board on the 3rd of October.
3rd of October, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Or what date is that? The 7th or the 3rd? It's going to be the first week in October. So it should be very short thereafter. The 7th. And then we'd probably do the combined meeting after that. And then after that, you would have it for your review.
So combined meeting, you're aiming for October 14th?
Yeah.
Okay. So for now, we'll plan on October 14th meeting with the Board of Selectmen to have a joint meeting. And obviously, as things change, you'll coordinate with me and I'll coordinate with my team here.
And if things change until then, they might be a little fluid, but maybe we'll have you in that first night on the 7th when we
Okay.
get the first review.
And what time do you guys meet?
We meet at 6.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll keep you posted on that.
All right. And that's all I have. But
That was it. I just needed to.
I just have one question.
Yes,
It's
sir.
probably, it's sort of budget related kind of, but since we have a school board person here.
How's this related to the town budget?
I don't know, $16 million maybe coming back to the town. So that's my question.
That's fine, but that's not
Yeah,
related to
that's
the
my question.
Plastow
Yeah, that's my
town
question.
budget.
That's my question. Thank you.
Just a point of order. That's
Okay,
all.
my question though. Can we have a narrative about, monies that might be remitted back to Plastow from the Timberlane School District? I know that there was a question of a special meeting out there to be determined about $3.5 million.
Did you
But-
watch the meeting? And,
It's a special meeting. I'm asking a question.
but
I'm asking a question. Don't
Sounds like
interrupt,
you know
don't
all the
interrupt me.
answers.
Don't interrupt me, please.
Well,
Okay.
I'll make the answer easy. I would tune into this Thursday school board meeting.
Right. But what is that mechanism? Just so that,
Tune
You
in
know.
this Thursday school board meeting.
but we don't want to say it out loud here at the
I'm
budget
not here in the
committee?
capacity for the school board. I'm here. in the
yeah,
capacity of the
I don't
budget
think you
committee.
can speak on behalf of the school board in its entirety.
What's the mechanism for money being remitted back to the town from the school board? Do we know that? Does it come back does it remain as a credit to offset our obligation, or
it'd
does
be
it,
similar to what the town does, but I would,
is
watch
it
the
an
meeting.
adjustment that shows up on the tax bills at all?
I doubt it'll be an adjustment, but I don't know.
it'd be similar to what the town does. It would offset their tax rate.
A credit to the town?
It would offset the tax rate.
The future
It'd be surplus that's
expenditures.
given back to offset the tax rate.
So it would offset future expenditures to reduce the tax rate.
All right,
Mathematically.
so are you saying then that it's remitted back into the general fund and then it's used in the calculation to
No,
offset
there's
the
no
tax rate?
lump sum of money returned to the town. It's done through the tax rate. So the surplus is applied against the tax rate. That's in the town, and I'm not speaking for the school district, but in the town, if we have a surplus, like last year, we had $300,000 in surplus. Well, sorry, the year before. We took that $300,000 and applied it against the calculation in the tax rate, and it took off, I think it was like 20 cents. Actually, 7 cents, excuse me. Took off 7 cents.
Yeah, I'm only asking because I don't think people are clear, even at the town level, what it means
Well,
to
it's not
say
like you're
that
gonna
we
get a
have.
gift card to go to Market Basket and go shopping. It's gonna go into the calculation of the tax rate that the school puts together.
Does that make sense, Doug? That if you have a credit that's a surplus that from what, that's being remitted back to a municipality, that credit is now used in some sort of calculation for a tax rate?
Well, I think
it's considered surplus.
Yeah, so simplistically, I think it would reduce the total expected expenditures or funds needed. So mathematically, they back into the rate. So it would be a reduced rate, is the way I
Right.
interpret that.
My suggestion is, why don't you go to the school board meeting and ask that question? Because it might be different from how the town does it and the school does it.
That's what I'm saying.
So-
It's just, yeah.
I think we all want to
We're
know
at the
the answer.
Plastow
to-
budget.
Don't we all want,
No, no,
don't
but
we
this
all
is-
want to know the answer, not have a sarcastic
I
answer?
think we all want to know the answer to your question, and I think we all have the same thoughts in our head, but I think it's really, really important right now that we're talking two separate issues and that nobody should feel like they're being railroaded into answering a question that they can't technically answer because we got to go through the school board first. So I
agree. That's,
I'm not real comfortable with the
Well,
subject right now, and
no.
I want to be upfront about it.
I mean, I understand his
I
question.
understand his
because the
question exactly.
No, yeah, so the school budget obviously impacts all the taxpayers and the tax rate. So that's the point of the question. Overall, it impacts everybody in this room. This isn't the position, we're not in a position to answer that. Honestly, I don't know how that works and I don't want to miss.
So we can say that we're not clear on what the mechanism is, right?
I'm not clear on the school budget's impact on the taxpayer.
Yeah, that we might have like a multi-million-dollar credit of some kind, and we don't know how that impacts the town,
I haven't done
municipality.
I haven't done any research on that. I have an idea how the accounting works, but I don't want to speak to that. One, because I've experienced, a little bit of experience in accounting. We'll meet as soon as Jay proposes, think you guys, think you're ready, around October 7th. Unless there's any other questions or concerns at this point. If anything comes up, you can always reach out to me. I'll reach out to the town manager, any department head to get additional information. I'll work on that additional information, Richard, for August numbers. I'll try to get that by the end of the week, if not sooner. And other than that, we can adjourn the meeting at 7:38.